Good Tuesday morning. It is the 21st of July, and you found the weather desk. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller. Let's talk about some of the big headlines we're going to cover in today's show, and there is a lot to go over and break down. We're going to start off with a look at the Gulf Coast bracing for Bertha. Bertha, a tropical storm, and I'll show you exactly where it's located, how close the northern part of the center of circulation, kind of think about it, the eye of this tropical system, where that's located in proximity to the Florida coastline right now, how far away it is from New Orleans and Mobile. There's a lot of interest down there along the Gulf Coast. I'll have all of that. In addition, we've got the severe weather outlook, and we have a weather impact alert for us right here in Hampton Roads. That's Southeast Virginia and Northeast North Carolina. We're bracing for severe weather chances later today and again tomorrow. I'll show you who else around the country has to watch out for that. Excessive rainfall, flooding, that's a concern as well. So plenty to go over with that. In addition, you may be wondering, where'd the smoke go? For parts of the area, most of the country, it is a much cleaner atmosphere than what we've been experiencing, but we still have some issues with wildfires. I'll show you where the smoke is now and where it looks like it will be headed over the coming days. We also have an interesting story one of my colleagues, Taylor Stephenson, did on measuring climate change. You know, it's not just an event-to-event thing. You have to look at longer periods of weather events, and she's going to explain more on that coming up. We also have an update. It'll be 4 weeks tomorrow since we had those two earthquakes in a very short amount of time, within a minute or so of each other, back in Venezuela, and we've got the update. Unfortunately, some more sad news in terms of the fatalities. Those numbers continue to climb, but we'll have an update on how Venezuela is doing. And Peru is hit with a pretty good sized earthquake, 5.5 in the Andes region of Peru over the weekend. We'll also have more on that, and we've got Hampton Roads week ahead. So a lot to talk about, but we're going to start off taking a look at what's going on with Bertha, this tropical storm. As of 8 o'clock, the advisory, maximum winds still at 50 miles per hour, gusting to 65. And you can see a lot of those colder cloud tops kind of away from the center of the system. When you get the deep convection near the center, that's a sign of a healthy system that's gaining strength. These storms draw on that warm sea surface temperature, and they billow up, and they get more development near the center, and that circulation tightens up, they strengthen. In this case, most of that deep convection is well to the south of it. As I put this into motion, you can see again, the center has been up here with a lot of the storminess down to the south and kind of blowing off back off to the south and southwest of this system. So let's take away the satellite imagery here. The movement's been generally northwest at about 5 miles per hour, maximum winds 50, gusting up to 65. You take a look at this, and here's the actual radar showing you some of the low-level circulation going on right here. So you can see again, while we've had the deeper convection, some of the cloud tops here colder, and some colder cloud tops out to the west of it. The center of circulation is right in here. Now that center, again, about 60 miles or so in diameter. It's also kind of 60 miles or so off of the Florida coast, just to the south. That's where you find the northern edge of that center of circulation. So, it's not really a closed eye. It's just a tropical storm. But if you could imagine, again, if that were to fill in a little bit in an eye to form, that would be the northern edge of the eye of that, about 60 miles off the Florida coast. And from New Orleans, the distance is about 152 miles. Now, I mentioned that circulation there, the eye, if you will, about 60 miles in diameter. So all of this, things to consider as it moves along. There are tropical storm watches up along the Florida coast, and for Mobile Bay over towards the mouth there, just out to the east of New Orleans, we have tropical storm warnings. It is forecast to skirt along the coast, coming very close to, maybe just south of New Orleans, but very close with that center, and that puts them kind of on the dirtier side of the system as it moves along. Eventually, it rains out, and it could be a big flooding issue for Texas, once again, that area does not need any more rain. That's for sure. So the Gulf Coast is bracing for this tropical storm Bertha, and the storm again is just south now of Panama City, Florida. Those sustained winds up to 50 miles per hour, gusting to 65. Let's take a look.
This morning, millions along the Gulf Coast bracing for Tropical Storm Bertha, which could unleash flash flooding and life-threatening storm surge.
Don't discount the storm until the threat is past. We never turn our back on a system in the Gulf.
The system is pushing west from the Florida Panhandle and is expected to make landfall in southeast Louisiana tomorrow. Areas around New Orleans could see up to 8 inches of rain and as much as 4 feet of storm surge. Officials throughout the region are urging people to stay out of the water, as the storm could produce high surf and dangerous rip currents. As Bertha threatens the Gulf Coast, other parts of the country are reeling from deadly flooding. In Wayne County, Utah, 5 family members were killed during a camping trip after being swept away by flash flooding.
This family was 1 in a million.
The victims included a captain in the Provo Fire Department, his wife, and their 3 sons. A daughter who was not on the trip survived. Meanwhile, another round of severe weather slamming the Midwest. Heavy rain falling outside Des Moines, Iowa. Now, that system is making its way to the Northeast, just days after parts of New York and New Jersey were hit with torrential rain and flooding. Hundreds of flights already canceled today, and airlines have issued travel waivers for passengers traveling to or from the Northeast. Sophie Flay, ABC News, New York.
All right, and just before we get into the severe weather outlook, I wanted to just drive home again from Panama City back over to Pensacola. Tropical storm watches for Bertha. Warnings offshore in those coastal waters through Mobile, back over towards Biloxi. And then as you approach New Orleans, again, tropical storm warnings there. Just out there for the city of New Orleans and areas out to the west of that, tropical storm watches. So that's the latest on Bertha. We will keep you updated as things move along. Here in Hampton Roads, we have a severe weather threat, and I want to talk to you about this. Again, a weather impact alert for today and tomorrow. Potential for strong storms with damaging winds, heavy rain. We could see some runoff issues, some flash flooding. You'll definitely want to stay weather aware. As you can see right now, we've seen a little bit of development this morning. We've had some thunderstorms come through. Nothing severe this morning. Some more wet weather off to the northwest. We've been watching, of course, some of those areas hit with a lot of rain recently. The ground charged back across Texas and into the southwest as well. What about today? Well, going forward, the flood potential is fairly likely. It is high out here across Arizona, New Mexico, into Utah, Nevada, and the southwest part of Wyoming. Here in the mid-Atlantic, we've got to be concerned with this threat of excessive rainfall for all of Virginia, really, and then into North Carolina. It's a lower threat, but still a possibility of some flash flooding there. I mentioned that threat out to the west. There were big problems back across parts of Colorado. There was flash flooding yesterday, and you can see that shut down part of I-70 in both directions last night. It caused a mudslide on part of that interstate. The picture shows the aftermath in Garfield County, which is between Silt and Newcastle. Now, as we take a look going forward, I want to talk to you tomorrow. More potential for flash flooding out in that part of the country and for our area. Again, we have to watch out for that excessive rainfall potential. We could also see it into Thursday. So very wet pattern shaping up. Now, the severe weather outlook for today, we have an enhanced threat just off to the north, and this does include the northern neck and the middle peninsula and the tornadic threat. Let's take this full. I want to go in and zoom in. This is something I hadn't planned on doing, but I do want to take a little closer look because the Storm Prediction Center has just updated this, and we do have a closer look now. That second tier of tornadic potential later today and this evening does include now Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Chesapeake, Portsmouth, northern Suffolk, Isle of Wight, again, the peninsula, middle peninsula, northern neck, the eastern shore, all those areas out to the west. Wakefield included in that, along with Petersburg and Richmond just on the edge. Hail threat is farther to the north And again, strong, powerful winds, those damaging wind gusts potentially the great threat. For tomorrow, again, we do have that slight risk level 2 for severe weather. But this is serious again, even a lower but isolated tornado, that risk a little bit lower tomorrow, but still an isolated tornado, not out of the question. These are all things we're going to be watching very closely. I'll have a lot more for you coming up a little later in the show. We're going to take a break. Next, we have hundreds of wildfires that we still need to deal with. They're burning across Canada and parts of the U.S. We'll have a look at the conditions crews are dealing with. Welcome back to the Weather Desk. Time for an update on the wildfires and the smoke, the air quality. It is good news for Hampton Roads as we are starting off. The smoke is farther to the north. You can see the trend through the overnight and early this morning. We are in really good shape right now here locally. Air quality is green and it is much improved across so much of the northeast U.S. as well. So that's all good. When we take a look at the smoke forecast for us here across the mid-Atlantic region, you can see the smoke off to the north. It's not as intense as it was. Remember before when we had the really bad conditions, it was getting up into the oranges and even some of the darker reds indicating more dense smoke. We don't have any of that in our immediate forecast. And again, that is a huge blessing. In Minnesota, crews are working to contain multiple fires burning in Superior National Forest. So far, more than 63,000 acres have been scorched, along with an additional 8,000 acres across the border up into Canada. Members of the Minnesota National Guard are now helping fight the flames from above. As for Canada, crews are still struggling to contain wildfires in Ontario, which caused hazy conditions across the northeast last week. You remember that. Even as far south as right here through the mid-Atlantic and Hampton Roads in northeast North Carolina. First responders say this fire season has been trickier than most.
In northwestern Ontario, we're not strangers to forest fires. We deal with them every year. However, with the scale that we're dealing with this fire season, especially with a relatively slow start, is unprecedented. And I think if you talk to anyone in the Northwest, and they'll say they've never seen anything like it.
There are at least 190 wildfires burning in northern Ontario right now. Now, back in the U.S., hot, dry, and windy conditions are helping fuel several wildfires in Oregon. Alma McCarty shows us what crews are up against.
Across central Oregon, a snapshot of the hot, dry, and gusty conditions fueling extreme fire activity. This is a look at the Rogue Creek Complex fire in Wheeler County, the largest in the state at nearly 150,000 acres. Hand crews, dozer operators, engine crews, and ranchers all banding together to strengthen control lines and mop up hotspots. Another couple fires of concern, the Akawa Butte fire north of Sisters and the Brewer fire north of Prineville.
We split our forces between the Brewer fire and Akawa fire.
For both fires, Governor Kotek mobilized state firefighting resources over the weekend. And on Monday night, Incident Command broke down their latest strategies during a virtual meeting.
There's a lot of fires in close proximity to each other, so we're competing for a finite amount of resources.
Snow has been absent in a lot of places, and we had an early melt-off, so it kind of accelerated the drying of those fuels. And then last week we had that abundant lightning event and caused a whole bunch of fires on the landscape that we see today.
Crews anticipate some rain within the next couple of days, poised to slow the spread of flames, though stopping short of putting fires out.
Our priority has been to the south side here, where we've got more of the community to the south, heavy equipment, crews, air tankers, and helicopters.
All right, coming up next, you've more than likely heard the term climate change. Well, it's used a lot when someone is talking about weather or natural disasters. But what exactly does it mean, climate change, and how do scientists measure it? We'll explain. Welcome back to the Weather Desk. You know, a single day's weather doesn't directly equate to climate change. We can set record highs and record lows. Instead, experts rely on decades of carefully analyzed temperature data to track long-term trends. Meteorologist Taylor Stevenson explains how the math works.
Understanding climate change begins with knowing how climate experts measure the rise in Earth's global temperature. Thousands of weather stations on land, on ships, and buoys collect millions of temperature observations every year. But experts don't simply average all those temperatures together. Instead, they calculate what's called a temperature anomaly. That's the difference between today's temperature and what's considered normal for that location based on a long-term average. A climate normal is a smooth average of temperatures over a 30-year period. This method helps account for geographical differences, such as the Rocky Mountains being naturally cooler than coastal cities like Virginia Beach. Scientists then combine those temperature anomalies from around the globe to calculate Earth's average temperature change over time. Researchers also account for factors that could skew data, like the urban heat island effect. Perhaps most importantly, NASA's results don't stand alone. Independent temperature records produced by other organizations, including NOAA, the United Kingdom Met Office, and Berkeley Earth, all show nearly the same long-term warming trend. Scientists can also compare those records with satellite observations and evidence preserved in tree rings, ice glacier cores, and coral reefs. As a global community, if we can keep the global temperature rise below 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit, this will slow the impacts of climate change. While 2.7 degrees may sound insignificant, that same drop in temperatures was enough to trigger the Little Ice Age in North America and parts of Europe. For 13 News Now, I'm meteorologist Taylor Stephenson.
Yeah, those changes don't sound like much, but they are significant. And we'll continue to keep you updated on all of the climate topics from here on the Weather Desk at 13 News Now. We take a look now to Venezuela. You know, this Friday will mark 1 month since Venezuela got hit by back-to-back earthquakes. This is a look at the damage left behind by those 7.2 and 7.5 magnitude quakes. Even weeks later, the death toll continues to climb as crews keep digging through the rubble. It now stands at just over 5,000 people. More than 16,000 others were injured. We also know 865 buildings were damaged, while 190 were completely destroyed. All right, we're going to take a look down to Peru and in the Andes region here to the east of Lima. You look out towards the mountains, and over the weekend, they were hit with an earthquake. They're cleaning up after that earthquake was 5.5, that magnitude. It happened Saturday evening around 9:30 their local time. Now, we know 6 people have died, 30 have been injured, and at least 300 people are displaced. Several buildings collapsed or were damaged, including a church that dated all the way back to 1565. Earthquakes are not uncommon in Peru, as the country is located along the so-called Pacific Ring of Fire. All right, we're going to take you live outside. We're going to be watching for stronger storms to fire up later today. What you need to know coming up in just 2 minutes. Welcome back to the Weather Desk. Time to break down the severe weather threats for Hampton Roads again today and tomorrow. Potential for damaging winds, some storms with heavy rain, maybe some excessive rainfall or flash flooding, and there's now an elevated risk for tornadoes for this afternoon. We need to watch for this as we go late afternoon and into the evening. That is a little change from the Storm Prediction Center. They've actually bumped up the chances for some more intense storms. So we're going to need to watch that. You can see late afternoon, that's when the chances for scattered showers and storms go up and then really shoot up again as we get into our late Wednesday and early Thursday. So I am looking for more storminess across the area. At the beaches today, a mix of clouds and sunshine. Temperatures getting up upper 80s to low 90s. Chances for storms not as great right at the coast. We do have small craft advisories going up for the bay this afternoon and then for the ocean this evening. You must stay weather aware if you're even thinking about going out on the water, as conditions would change dramatically if we do get some of those stronger storms. Right now, tracking a little wet weather across northern parts of the area. We have the southwest flow. As we take a look, some lightning detected from just to the east of Petersburg across inland portions of the the northern neck and the middle peninsula, and then back over to the northern part of the eastern shore, just out over the bay and not too far from Tangier Island. We've got that cluster of storms right there headed over towards Accomack. As we go through the day, there's going to be chances for storms there. This is the graph model. It's not really keying in on a lot of that. So I think this is actually underplaying our storm chances through the afternoon. Into the evening, you see that intense line of storms going through, mainly to the north, but I think we'll see some development farther south as well. Certainly we'll be watching for that here at 13 News Now. During the day on Wednesday, chances for more scattered showers and storms. Some of them tomorrow could be intense as well. Tomorrow evening into early Thursday, more heavy rain. When all said and done, 2 to 4 inches of rain, certainly a possibility. The concentration then will settle a little farther to the south. Now, you look at the various models, the NAM, 2.6 inches, the graph over 3, the HERS updating, GFS just under 2, and the Euro going almost 5 inches. That's an outlier with a tremendous amount of rain. Don't think we'll see that much, but the bottom line is over the next few days, significant rain. Feels like temperatures up over 100 this afternoon, generally low to mid 90s, chances for storms late. Looking off to the north, a little cooler, upper 80s to low 90s for most of those areas north, and then low 90s down to the south. Here's the full 7-day forecast. Our temperatures a little cooler tomorrow, upper 80s to near 90, but better chances for scattered storms and into Thursday as well. And then it settles down to the south as we get into Friday and the upcoming weekend. We'll be watching all of this. Stay weather aware and keep checking back with 13 News Now. When you're away from the TV, make sure you've got our mobile app. Have a good one.